Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry there was a little bit of a glitch in the electronics. So as usual, so you'll notice I'm in a different place. I'm packing up and getting ready to move. So this video series is going to go mobile in a week. So I'm winding down a life that I spent here in this apartment, doing videos and writing and coaching and everything. So I'll talk more about that. Today, what I want to talk about is working with the solar flares. So I noticed that every time I talk about solar flares, I get between 390 and 500, 600 watches. So this tells me that there's a lot of information out there on solar flares, and it's time to sort of take everything I've learned with coaching and relationships and presence and the observer and put it into information that I can provide to you each week with, what's going on? What can we do? Right. Because these flares are getting pretty regular. There's little ones. We call the C ones now, just the little ones, because on last week we had six, I think it was on the 9th, we had six M class solar flares in a 24-hour period. And if we don't understand what those are, we don't know how they affect us, right? So here's the odd thing that I've noticed is that some of us get totally flattened out. Like we have to lay on the couch. We might stream an entire season of Netflix. Or we're sleeping. Some of us are energized, like, wow, I finally feel like I've got my groove back and it's time to go do something. And some of us are noticing what's going on around us and picking up cues of watching who's up and who's down and what's going on, right? So I have this theory about the solar flares, and I've been playing with it off and on throughout the last 6 months. So to put it in context, when I moved to my family and I moved to Bend when my children were young and when I was still married, right? Regardless. And so we rented a little house that had a bunch of pine trees around it, and it was in a lot of disrepair. And so after renting it for a bit, we purchased it and then started to do the work that we wanted to do. Part of it was we had this hill in front of the house that was covered with about 12 to 18 inches of pine needles. And so, with a truck, we just kept pulling the pine needles off, pulling the pine needles off. And underneath it, we found a sprinkler system and an entire, like, beautiful bunch of soil that, after being watered, turned out that the house was owned by a master gardener in Bend who planted fruit trees and perennials. And that entire hill was nothing but the most gorgeous perennials that had been dormant since the pine needles had sort of shut it all down, right? So using that context, when you clear all this out and you provide sunshine and you provide water, then those dormant seeds start to crack open and they're like, it's time to grow again, right? So whether we use the analogy of a seed or a pod or a cell that has sort of a seal around it, right? What we have is sealed cells that are energetically dormant. Whether it's in this generation or in our ancestral lineage, what we have is a series of programmed, controlled, conditioned, even traumatized cells that are doing their function, but not as well as they could. And there's almost memories, there's almost a skill set in there that has been locked in and dormant, right, for generations. So, with these flares, they're coming through our sun. Something's affecting our sun. Our sun is actually putting out these bursts, right? Sending energy surges onto our earth, into your body, into your field, into your cellular structure. And so these dormant cells, these little bundles of energy, are going like, whoa, I just got a whole bunch of vitamins. I got a whole bunch of energy, and I'm going to start popping open, or I'm going to start expanding. And then it's like creeping open one bit at a time, right? So this dormant seed is bursting open. We can look at it like the chrysalis, like we were caterpillars and we were in this cocoon, and now we're expanding and we're breaking out of the cocoon. Or We could even look at spiders, reptiles, things that shed their skin. As their body grows or as their skin becomes ineffective, they just sort of it falls off, and so you find pieces of skin everywhere. Right. This is what I believe we are doing. So knowing that, the weird thing is that as adult humans, not necessarily the children, but as adult humans, we have the most shedding to do. We've been dormant, really long, tight, locked in, or we've been traumatized and stuck, right? Because we have a lot of 1950s and 1960s weaponization of mind control, of food, additives into our diet, of education systems, of vibrational frequency stagnation by design, right? So, especially here in the US, what we have is an institutionalized pain and suffering that keeps those cells locked in. Now, what I love is I don't know how it's happening. What I'm saying, what I'm seeing is that these bursts of solar flares are going through those programmed pieces, those conditioning pieces, and they're sort of talking to the core cell, and the cell's going like, "I hear you. It's time to wake up." And so, what's happening is that we're experiencing a lot of pain in places and issues because we have a lot of this programming around us. The really good news is that our children, especially those that are like 20 and under, 20, maybe 25 and under, may not have as many effects unless they've been as programmed and conditioned as you have, right? So they have their own way of dealing with it, but they don't have as many layers on them, especially when you look at the indigos and crystals are the ones that took on the most amount of layers and said, bring on this frequency. We're going to pop this open and we're going to do this. What I'm noticing is that the rainbow and diamond children, so rainbows are 2002 to 2007, diamonds are 2008 forward, really coming into their own in 2018, are coming in with no conditioning on them, no programmed limitations. So they're happy, they're floating around, they're enjoying this energy surges because it's not impacting them physically and they're not struggling the same way we are as adults. So these flares are weekly, they are daily. We have geomagnetic storms. We also have, especially if you live in the northern parts of the continent, and in the southern, excuse me, it's just around the poles, is that the auroras, I've noticed that even when it's cloudy and the northern lights or southern lights are out, is that I can feel this like sparkling, and it's almost like trying to sleep in a bed full of effervescent bubbles and going like, okay, I guess I'm not going to get a lot of sleep tonight, right? Until they stop talking. And was watching Frozen with my granddaughter, and I loved the way that Elsa or that oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember the names. Anyway, the youngest sister came in to wake up Elsa and say, the lights are out and they're playing, and it's so hard to sleep because they won't stop talking. And I'm like, that is exactly what this feels like, right? So we have all this energy that's coming and pummeling us, and we don't always know what to do about it. So I've got 6 tips for you. And before I go into the tips, I want to piggyback on the announcement that I did in social media, which is that I've been an entrepreneurial, self-employed coach for the last 13 years, and I work with parents who have teens and young adults in program, and then into parents who working on highly sensitivities and reactivities within the family system, and then really honing it into energetic knowledge. What happens when energy shifts, and what can we do with patterns, and how does that show up in our relationships, right? So this work has supported me and been my passion, and I've done it a lot. Uh, the work stopped around Jan. It started slowing down in October when the flares started coming up. And my theory is that as we're trying to just hold on for dear life, we're not reaching out and spending money on coaching or asking for help and services, or really saying, I don't know what I'm doing. Can we start this relationship? So my work has stopped flowing in, which of course affects the financial. So that was part of my breaking open and kind of going, something has happened. I need to do something different. So the change that came when I sort of started to crack open again on a different level was that I thought, wow, why don't I try I don't have any kids at home. I've been coaching a while. Why don't I just go get a seasonal job and go play? So I'm going to pretend like I'm 20 again, and I'm going up to um, uh, a resort with rafting and fly fishing and weddings and everything up near just outside of Glacier National Park in West Glacier. So I'm putting my coaching on hiatus until October 2nd. So if you're interested in doing coaching with me after that, you can always drop me a note and get on my waiting list. Meanwhile, I'm still going to do videos and posts and social media and sort of keep you appraised of life in a resort, what's going on with the solar flares, and what I'm noticing as I have been for the last 6.5 years. So, tips for how to work with solar flares. The first thing is to train your body, your system to feel, to notice, to recognize when something is off, when something's new, whether it's like, oh my gosh, my ears started to ring, or I'm feeling something, some agitation in my teeth and my jaws, or my bones. My bones are sort of vibrating. Whatever that is, it could be an activation, it could be pain, it could be irritability, it could be I didn't sleep at all last night, or I can't keep my eyes open and all I want to do is sleep. So, what we're doing, number one, is we're building awareness and self knowledge. Something's amiss, something's off, something's changed. And what is it? What am I noticing? And you start to put your observer, swell it out, and bring it all in, right? Number two, go to places like spaceweather.com, go to Pam Youngins on Facebook, go find your own solar flare, geometric storm, and northern lights resources, because what that does is it validates you. It's like, I knew it. And it started it started at 11:55, and I started feeling really weird by about 12 o'clock, 12:15. So you start to go like, yes, I'm on it. I know what I'm doing and it's working. So you're keeping track of flares, you're keeping track of storms, and you're recognizing when you're correct, right? So this is where we take our intelligences and we expand them beyond the norms. A lot of people don't know where spaceweather.com is. A lot of people don't try to track solar flares, but if you do, then your intelligences are validating what you're experiencing physically, right? Number three, ease the struggles for these poor activated cells. These cells are just working so hard, and every part of them is shifting, changing, expanding. There's a lot of different ways we could look at it. Some will be open to this, and some will be in crunched, dense clusters around your body. That's where you've stored emotional pain for a long, long time. So when the last 10 years, last 10 to 11 years, from 2012 to now, it's been like, let it go, do your work, get yourself cleared out. I'm thinking it's because of this, because these dense areas, whether it's in your left shoulder, your left hip, whether it's in your jaw where your teeth have not been and metals haven't been removed, whether there's disease in or imbalance in a thyroid or disease in your body, there's going to be some crunched in areas. And every part of our cells, the ones that are dense and the ones that are open and free, are going to need a lot. They're going to need hydration. They're going to need water. They're going to need electrolytes. They're going to need trace minerals, and support to sort of keep the liquids flowing and the movements. They need magnesium. I think they need vitamin B12. To me, that's been helping my system adapt. They take a little bit of that every single morning, even before I do my tea and start my day. Because what we want to do is we want to create less stress, and we want to show that these cells in our body that we understand that they're under some changes and duress. Kind of like right now when I'm moving, I forget to drink water or I forget to eat because I'm just in it. It's kind of like, no, that's going to sustain me while I'm packing up this place and getting ready to go do something else, right? Number four. Well, first of all, go back to number three, because when we are taking care of ourselves, what we're doing is we're creating stability and we're creating adaptability. What do I need to do? Oh, I'm going to need to double my water intake, or I'm going to need to make sure I dose on magnesium tonight, right? So that's stability and adaptability skill sets. Number 4, be flexible with your time. Shorten your lists, your loads, your tasks, lighten your schedule. Pushing through these symptoms isn't going to make it better, it's going to make it worse. So partnering with yourself, with your system, is the greatest form of self-love and nurturing that you could do. So what we're doing is we're taking that self-knowledge into self-love. We slow it down. If there's something you can cancel, if something you can pull out of the schedule, start to give yourself time and space. Number 5, communicate with your inner self. Communicate, I get it. I just figured that out. I know. I'm taking care of you. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. We're going to ride this out together. So this is that dialogue that we always wanted as children to hear from our parents, or as partners that we want to hear from our partner. Is, I'm here. I've got you. I'm not going anywhere, and we're going to ride this out. So what happens is we self partner, we self parent ourselves through this. So you communicate to your body, okay, I just noticed we have a solar flare. This is what I think. Yeah, give me some feedback. You can use your yes, no's. You can sit quietly and wait for some information and find out what is it that your body actually needs. And number 6 is to have compassion always, because we're cracking out of old roles, we're cracking out of expectations, we're cracking out of rigid plans, we're breaking institutional controls, we're breaking contracts, we're evaluating marriages and relationships, we're evaluating jobs, we're deciding whether we want to spend time with families. And today is Mother's Day, and it brings up a lot when you have family systems that are more agitative than they are relief, then they can provide relief. So we're stepping away from families. We're stepping away from parts of our lives that don't support us in this new expansion. It's almost like your family may want you to hang out with them because they're all caterpillars, and you're now a butterfly, and you're like, man, that's kind of restrictive, just sitting there on that leaf, you know, all day long. I want to go fly and see what the world has to offer. So these are the kind of things we want to have compassion with. So I hope that this has been helpful, and please put your remarks down in the comments. And if you want to get on my waiting list, go over to website and drop me a message. You take care. Have a good week, and enjoy this early spring, or late spring, early summer. Take care.